Despite an English-speaking population of more than 40 million, a more educated workforce, the port of Mombasa, and a vibrant private sector, the Kenyan economy grew at an average annual rate of just 4.0% between 2008 and 2013, far slower than the 6.2% average for the East African region. There was little volatility in international oil prices as they remained stable, and rainfall was adequate, which stabilized both food and energy prices. The Kenyan economy is estimated to have recorded a moderate growth of 4.7% in the first half of 2013. This was higher than the 4.3% during the same period in 2012.
This is a country that has been growing at 5%, but it is below the potential. I think one thing that we all realize is that 10% growth is not going to come only from public investment. It's a big amount. So there will need to have two things need to happen really. Is we need to accelerate some of the infrastructure that the country needs. One, to make sure that the country, which is in East Africa, really a connector of other countries, plays its role.
One of the greatest potentials in driving the Kenyan economy are the small and medium enterprises, a category estimated to include as much as 90% of all businesses.
If you want to address the unemployment challenges, especially among the youth and women, SMEs, it is really the priority in terms of unlocking that. So I wouldn't say they are the only thing, but they are very important in addressing inequality and the unemployment that we are facing in the country today.
Given the seminal role SMEs play in growth and job creation, every option must be put in place to help it advance and also to accelerate the growth of the Kenyan economy through increasing access to affordable credit.
If the cost of working capital could reduce from whatever it is, I think most of them, I think they borrow at around 20%, 25% because of the risk profile they have. If that could be reduced to a reasonable figure, which reflects the cost of money, I think most SMEs will borrow to expand their business.
About 17% of loans by Kenyan banks go to SME sector. Although this figure is higher than in other African countries, it is still well below the share of SMEs in the private sector. Though in great need of credit, most private businesses choose to keep away.
My personal bank, they were inquiring me to open an account to take money from them. And we went further. I applied even with the form, but when I saw their interest rate, they are so high, 10%, and I saw it was so, I had to retrieve myself from there. Because I wanted when it's a bit down. I wish it was not so high like that.
Sijawahi chukua loan because wanaogopa interest rates ziko very high. Nimeona mtu alichukua loan na akashindwa kulipa na auctioneers wakakuja wakachukua kila kitu wakaauctioniwa. So kitu kama hiyo inaniogopesha.
When the interest rate regime is such that the interest rates have to increase, we see that being a burden not just to the borrowers but also to the banks, because high interest rates are sometimes associated with a high level of non-performing loans. So low interest rates are desirable to the banks as well as to the borrowers.
Due to inflation rate in late 2011 and 2012, Central Bank raised the benchmark interest rate by nearly 300%, from 6.25% to 18.0%, prompting banks to do the same. However, after August 2012, Central Bank started lowering the policy rate, which ironically banks were not as responsive, with the interest rate spreading remaining high.
I think the banks need also to play their part in terms of ensuring that the interest rate spreads are not as high as they are now. They are pretty high, and that is not acceptable, and I think the banks also need to play their part.
A recent survey of companies cites the high cost of credit as the main reason for cash flow challenges, leaving business owners with no recourse but to dig deeper into their personal savings or turn to family and friends to raise funds for day-to-day operations.
Nimeshajaribu kuchukua loan hizi za microfinance, lakini haikunisaidia, ilinichoma. Kwa sababu mtu anakuja anakuambia utakuwa ukirudisha labda for example kuchukua 15,000, nakwambia kila siku utakuwa kupeleka 300. Na hiyo 300 yenyewe ukiangalia uweke na kitu ya kukula ndani itakuwa ngumu.
Tapping the full growth and job creating potential of the SME sector will have to entail a move toward providing growth capital, not just working capital.
Affordable credit will make SMEs borrow more, will make SMEs expand their business, and by expanding their business, they'll be employing more Kenyans, so the employment will go up. And with that, we will see demand being multiplied and multiplied, and that will lead to growth. And that is what Kenya needs. Kenya needs to grow.
Despite the gains of the last decade, a vast policy agenda lies ahead for Kenya's banking sector. Increasing domestic financial intermediation, mobilizing domestic savings, and making these savings available for domestic investment are critical components of achieving the Vision 2030 growth targets. Ensuring adequate financing for SMEs, the dominant form of business organization in Kenya, is definitely an important part in accelerating economic growth.